As an educator for the past 43 years, I've become more and more passionate about the impact of access to effective teachers for all students. It's something that I care deeply about. After I had finished my first 10 years of teaching, I thought that I had a strong handle on effective teaching practices. I certainly had experienced success over those years. Texas had a new teacher evaluation system, so I decided I would go to a summer class on effective teaching practices taught by one of the best teachers I've ever had who truly modeled what he taught. Wow, was I humbled. What I realized is that I had a lot to learn and that teaching was way more complex than I had imagined. And that was after 10 years. I graduated from my death grip on the lectern, and I integrated more innovative research-based practices into my class. What I realized and had a much deeper appreciation for was the connection of teaching to learning. So what happens if students have an ineffective teacher? Research tells us that students who have even one ineffective teacher may take up to 3 years to catch up with their peers. And having an excellent teacher does not fully compensate for the effect of the ineffective teacher. Worse yet, if students have 3 bad teachers in a row, 3 ineffective teachers in a row, they rarely catch up. A study in North Carolina looked at high school students and their achievement scores and saw that achievement scores went up dramatically, significantly, when they were taught by highly trained teachers. We see over and over again that the most important factor or variable that impacts student achievement in a school is the teacher. An effective teacher matters. Data shows us that the neediest of students have the greatest number of weak and undertrained teachers, and high poverty schools typically have fewer qualified and fewer experienced teachers. This is untenable. Every student in this country should have access to a well-trained, effective teacher. As a nation, we should settle for no less. If we choose to ignore students' access to an effective teacher, no matter their zip code, we can easily move into a more divided society of have and have-nots with limited educational opportunities for many. Equity in education is a huge issue, and actually that's a topic for another time, maybe another TED Talk. But right now, I would like to pose the following. We need to consider the costs that we're paying by not treating teaching as a valued profession. Do you know that there are folks who begin teaching with little more than a boot camp type training? And there are others who begin with none. A case in point. I know a young woman who came here from from Puerto Rico, and she was displaced by Hurricane Maria. She was hired to teach 7th grade Texas history at a charter school. She had never taught before, and my guess is that she had little information on Texas history. The school was eager to hire her. Well, they were desperate. This group of students had already had 4 different teachers, and it was at the end of November. This teacher was fully committed to these students, but woefully unprepared for what she encountered. The neediest of students who required an experienced master teacher had a complete novice. And this is not an isolated experience or incident. This would be the equivalent of a pilot training to fly with a plane full of passengers. Yikes. As a nation, we really need to think about how much we value an effective teacher. And I think a way to put our arms around that is to personalize it and ask a question. Would I want this teacher for my child? Would I want this teacher for my grandchild or for someone that I know and care about? Preparing high-quality teachers, it takes time, focused, cohesive training where the teachers have many experiences in multiple diverse environments. We expect that our teachers are going to be successful wherever we send them. There's a huge difference from teaching in a wealthy suburban school and in a low-income Title I school. And we expect our teachers to be successful in these two extremes and everything in between. We also expect our new teachers and all of our teachers to be successful with all types of students with myriad needs. The parents don't keep the best ones at home. Pre-service teachers need hours and hours of practice working with students under the guidance of master teachers and mentors. This requires it's a process, and it's not a one-time event, and requires the commitment of an educator preparation program working along with a local school district. It's hard work, it takes time, and a boot camp won't cut it. I believe that all great teachers start with a relationship. And this is where the teacher genuinely cares about the student. They get to know their students by listening, attentive listening, listening with the head and the heart. Caring follows. I asked my students their ideas about their own teachers that had been effective. And one student said, "This teacher made me feel cared about." Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Obviously, a great teacher is going to get to know the students. And one way to do that might be to go around town to see where these students live. I worked for a district that put all the new teachers on a big yellow school bus, played the music Our Town in the back, and drove us all over town, all the way from the subdivisions to the public housing, to the trailer parks, and to the homeless shelter. You know, it's very easy to begin to think that people have lives very similar to ours, and this was a reality check. In addition, we saw pictures that were shocking. They had been taken inside students' homes. They were shocking due to filthy, dismal living conditions. These pictures were hard to look at, but reminded us our students come from many different environments. Ultimately, we were more compassionate, we were more empathetic, and certainly more sensitive. We were changed. Getting to know students might mean attending a sporting event. It might mean going to a performance. It might mean making a home visit. It's whatever it takes to get to know that student and their backstory. Respect for the student and a natural appreciation for their unique lives naturally follows. The more we know, the more we care. One of my students said, "My favorite wonderful teacher genuinely cared about me. They asked me about my interests and always remembered my extracurriculars." When the teacher knows that student, they know where they're coming from, and they can help them see possibilities for the future. And finally, we know that enthusiasm is so very important. Enthusiasm would be that joy of learning and that passion for the content and process. It's contagious. And we know that enthusiastic teachers impact their learners. Now, it probably is helpful if the teacher has something to teach, right? And mastery of the content is critical. The teacher needs to be well-versed on all aspects of the curriculum, knowing the complexities, the structure, and those big ideas so that they in turn can guide their students toward a deep understanding of the curriculum. This means that the teacher has got to know what the target is and what is it going to take to move the students toward that learning goal. Continually reflecting as a practitioner, is this working? Is it not? Do I need to do more of this, less of this? Are the students making adequate progress? Are the students meeting the goals? Do the students understand where they are in terms of meeting their goals? Complex? You bet. Additionally, the great effective teacher's got to be a lifelong learner. Every class is different, and what worked for one set of learners won't necessarily work for another. And finally, a great teacher's got to be a master of instruction. You know, there's a ton of research out there about what effective instruction looks like. And there are even check-off lists and look-fors. Foundation is students need to be engaged. And this means the majority of the students are fully engaged in learning. This is no easy task for a class of 25 plus or minus students with different learning styles, learning abilities, and emotions. What if the student is hungry, lacks sleep, is upset due to family issues, friend drama, and so on? What if the student doesn't speak English? That is one tall order, and the teacher has high expectations for all students. Engagement is not an option. The students know what they're doing, they know why they're doing it, and the learning is relevant. Meanwhile, the class is running like a well-oiled machine. Complex, not an easy task. I think this is rocket science. And these teachers are in the process of launching that next set of graduates who will be tasked with problem solving in an ever-growing complex world and global society. Now, as a friend shared with me, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. However, you can always add salt to the oats. And you know, I think that's exactly what a great teacher does. Consider the content, the oats, the content, process, and product. The teacher has a huge impact on students' motivation to engage, value, and learn the content, process, and product. They're eager to learn. They're thirsty to learn. The teacher's the salt. I invite each of you to think of a teacher that you've had that you value. Someone who has impacted your life. What made this teacher so effective? I asked my students that too. And another one said, this teacher inspired a love of learning in me. She made me feel like I could learn anything I wanted to, help me through bad times and hard times, and help me know that I could do anything I put my mind to. That's powerful. As you think about your teacher, how did they do with knowing you, caring, understanding, respect, and enthusiasm? Were you motivated to learn? Great teachers have a lasting impact on how we see ourselves as learners and as people. Another student said, this teacher made me want to learn the subject. The teacher made me believe I could, and I did, and the teacher never gave up. Great teaching is complex, it's worthy of celebrating, and in the end, great, effective teachers do change the world one student at a time. I encourage each of you to reach out to that one favorite teacher and let them know the impact that they have had on your life. What a gift and a celebration of that special teacher. Perhaps they were the ones that helped launch you to where you are right now. I'm guessing as you think about that teacher knew their subject and their students, and they pulled it all together in a way that promoted learning and engagement in the classroom. When you see someone or a teacher who gets it right, it is as impressive and as awe-inspiring as watching an artistic performance. It is magic. The students are eager, responsive, engaged, while the teacher masterfully guides them on their learning journey. This is where teaching is truly an art and a science. The teacher pulls on their full repository of knowledge. They bring their full self to the teaching, and their students are fully in sync with the teacher. It's similar to a conductor conducting an orchestra, where the musicians are all playing their respective instruments, making music that's glorious to the ears under the careful direction and guidance of the conductor. The soul sings. Yes, it is magic, and it is rocket science. P.S. Don't forget to salt the oats. Thank you.